Greetings everyone and welcome back to another episode of Planet Zoo. I'm the Beard and this is episode number 5, and today we're going to be building a habitat for none other than the African wild dog, an animal that is super close to my heart, one of my favorites, and one of the reasons why I think I say it's super close to my heart is because it's probably one of the most endangered animals out there. We talk about endangered African wildlife, and there are some obvious ones, the cheetah, and some of the bigger cats and the rhino, etc. But the wild dog is one that is oft left out of the conversation. But they have suffered some huge habitat losses over the last decade, we need to do a lot to look after them. So I'm very excited to be building a habitat for them in the Tankwa conservation park here today. So what you've seen me do is lay out the groundwork, and I seem to like complicated habitat structures, but this is actually an idea that I got from the Ladysigner, hat tip to her for this habitat layout design. And the idea here is that what we're going to do is we're going to have another path through the actual habitat itself, but unlike the hyena habitat that we did where the guests walked on a bridge through the habitat with the hyenas able to pass beneath them. In this one, we are going to build a habitat which will allow the wild dogs to pass over the guests. And in order to do this, we're going to be building a sort of a cave-like structure that will house some hard shelter for the dogs, as well as a viewing space for the guests, and a platform for the dogs to cross over to both sides of the habitat that you see me creating here. Now, I did realize that when you do what you just saw me do here, you actually end up creating 2 small habitats rather than one large one. I think it's over 1,000 square meters, so I wanted to give the dogs some space to run. So I actually ended up removing some of the panels from this wooden fence here and just using some rocks to patch up those holes so the dogs couldn't traverse through the tunnel here and get to our guests. I must say that I am not entirely happy in the long run with the way it looks. I think I could do a lot more and making it look a little bit more natural, but I think in the end it ended up working, and I'm fairly proud of it, to be honest. So while we watch me continue building out the rock cave structure here, fair bit of rock work I've given myself, let's talk about the wild dogs, because that's what we like doing on this channel apart from the building. The wild dogs, as I mentioned, they're an incredibly at-risk species. I think they're found pretty much throughout sub-Saharan Africa. And they're really amazing animals. If you've ever had the pleasure to see one in the wild, they've got these really cool ears. They're actually really cute, but otherwise they're sort of these yellow mottled black furred dogs, and I think one of the really coolest things about them is that they are incredible family pack animals, and in fact I actually think that's what makes them, in my opinion, a sort of A-tier top list predator. Their pack abilities, or their pack strength, and their reliance on the pack is just something that just gives them an edge over almost everybody else that hunts out there. I think a cool factoid about them is that their sort of hunting success rate is between 60 and 80%, if I remember correctly, which is really high. It's sort of higher than lions and other cat predators out there. Not that dogs are cats, but other predators, really cool. But having said that, like I mentioned, they really have suffered a really large habitat loss and sort of fragmentation, a lot of exposure to humans, and I think that as their habitats have shrunk, they have been sort of bullied by animals, so they'll often be more successful at a hunt, but then have their hunt stolen by hyenas or lions. It's become harder and harder for them to survive. So we really do need to be paying a lot of attention to the conservation efforts that we put into looking after our African wild dog populations. It's just one of those things that I'm personally quite passionate about. So just back to the build here. As you can see, I've finished most of this rock tunnel, and we've got those ramps there that will allow the dogs to move up and over this whole structure, and we started to form the rock cave / hard shelters that we'll create for the dogs there on either side, and there's some lovely glass viewing platforms. The guests really do get a good view of both the habitat and the dog sleeping areas from when they walk through that tunnel. It really is cool. When we get to the time lapse, we'll show that off properly. I did put the dogs in quite early into the habitat just so I could see where the traversable areas were, and they do indeed travel all the way over this bridge, which I'm very, very, very happy about. Yeah, super happy about. Right, back to the factoids about our furry friends here in this habitat. You know, family structure is super important, and they really are social animals. I think they live in quite large packs. I'm not actually sure what the largest pack size is, but I do know another cool thing about them is that the packs are led by both a male and a female. I think it's an alpha male and alpha female, and they kind of make the calls. They're the decision makers within the pack. They lead them on hunts. And if you've ever seen an African wild dog hunt, I think there's some videos on YouTube if you want to head out there and check them out. You'll notice that they kind of make these calls. They're like generals. They instruct the pack, go left, go right, intercept here, cut off here. It's really quite cool to watch. It really illustrates and highlights their sort of pack strength and their ability to work together as a team. It really is. Cannot highlight how cool that is. I would liken them to to orcas. You know how orcas in the ocean work together. Yeah, the wild dogs are similar to that. I also think another cool thing is that unlike the cats, where normally the males leave the pride, so I know with lions the young males will leave and go and find a new pride. With an African wild dog packs, I think it's the females that leave, and all the males are related, which is interesting. I think the females leave when they're about a year old, and then the adult packs, they once formed, they are formed, and they form very, very tight, close bonds. They hate being separated. They respond really badly to being separated or losing a pack member. I just want to get back to something that I did on the screen there. I don't know if you noticed, but I put some fence pieces across the top of the rock gangway there for the dogs. That was actually another thing that I took straight out of the Ladysigner's books. I wanted to use these chain link fences, but yeah, they don't work like that, so I had to settle for the good old scenery pieces there, and it worked really quite well actually. You'll see a closer look at them in the walkthrough. I also created this little water patch feature here. It's not very deep. It's just a little sort of water hole for the dogs to have a little bit of drink of in the side of the habitat. I just put a water pipe eventually on the other side. In terms of foliage, the dogs like a lot of soil and sand and open space, so I didn't actually go too heavy on the foliage side of things in this habitat. A lot of long grass where there isn't soil. I kept the trees quite light. I felt that it kind of worked, and it gave all the dogs quite a lot of space to run around and just play. Yeah, it kind of works, I think. And you'll see me putting on a lot of the trees here now. So let's just finish off quickly before we get back to the habitat with some other sort of facts. So I think another thing about African wild dogs is that they are persistence hunters, and I'm pretty sure this is a technique that humans picked up. I don't know if you've ever seen the Oi and the San people of South Africa. They do these persistence hunts where they will literally run an animal down to exhaustion rather than trying to take it down with a bow or arrow. The wild dogs do the same. Rather than waste pack energy on trying to attack an animal and potentially get hurt, they will run their foe down or their prey down until it's exhausted, and then climb in there as a pack. Really cool. Another thing I also know is that they, when they do make a kill, they let their young eat first and the weakest of the pack eat first, so the strongest will always eat last. Again, another absolutely awesome illustration of pack mentality and that idea that you're only as strong as your weakest link. I think something that African wild dogs exemplify to the highest degree. I really like that about them. So yeah, there's some cool facts about the wild dogs. Then getting back to the sort of habitat here, finishing off with some of this foliage, and then I'm going to move on to doing all the last things like the education boards, bins, donation bins, etc. One last thing I do want to mention is, which I was very keen on getting working, or just before I mention that, this is the last sort of little viewing area I put out here. I thought that it would be really cool to have a shaded area here on the side of the habitat. for the guests to park out at and look at everything on this side. So I put some benches there too, and I really like the way the fence ramps up into those wooden walls with the glass bits there. I think it looks quite cool. A nice little addition to this end of the habitat, I thought. But up there in the corner, you'll see that amphibian house that we built. And what I really enjoyed about this habitat is that actually I noticed that the guests really started traveling up the stairs to that viewing habitat because they've got quite a good view of the African wild dogs from up there, which is awesome. So I'm very happy about that, and I'll show that off a little bit later in the walkthrough once we finish this time lapse. And on that note, I think I will leave you to enjoy the music and the final remaining touches, and I'll see you in a bit. Well, welcome back everyone. It's that time where we get to take a closer look at what we've built, and as you can see, we have our lovely wild dog habitat out there in the distance. So let's zoom in and go and have a look, and I'm going to approach from over here. Let's get down to the level of the guest, shall we? I'm going to approach from over here because we have done some filling in. We've got some lovely stone man statue here filling in a little bit of the gaps, and yeah, lots of guests coming down this path. This is off to the Nile monitors, which we did last episode, but over here, this is where our wild dog habitat starts, and this is actually quite a lovely viewing fence. Along the fence here, as you can see some of the guests actually stopping and having a look. You can see all the way down into their first little sleeping cave there, and so wonderful to see the dogs actually using our bridge to run across. It's wonderful that they do that. Look at those wonderful jumps there, and the pack coming over the bridge from the other side. So the path does go down there and loop around to that viewing area, which we will have a look at now, but we're going to go through here, and obviously the park will stretch down that way. But this is what I'm really proud of. The viewing tunnel through which the guests can walk and the dogs can travel over. So here we got some education boards here, sign of the tunnel. Let's scoot down a bit so we don't bump our head. And yeah, look at this. It's beautiful, isn't it? We got there, you can see right through to the sleeping area for our dogs. I think one's what's one? Is he taking a poo there? I don't know what he's doing. He's looking up doing something. And this is their this is their first little sleeping cave here. They seem pretty content with it. They walk all the way up to the window here. I think this double-sided glass is great. Such a great viewing area for the guests in here. And then there's obviously another one over this side, should they choose to sleep on this side of the world. And you can see all the way through here, lovely view down into the actual habitat here. Not so blocked. This side's, doesn't give you such a good view of the rest of the habitat. A little bit, but not that much. This side is wonderful. Anyway, you can guests go through, and there's education boards all the way around. And then obviously the guests can loop around here. And this is also a lovely long viewing fence over here. Lovely view of that habitat. And this area here isn't used as much anymore as much at the moment. I think it will be in the future, but I think this is another great little viewing spot. There's some benches to sit down here. You can imagine yourself plopping down here and just having a quiet look at the wild dog pack playing behind the glass fence here, which is great. Checking out the signboard, good guys. Yeah, and then we loop all the way back around to the front here. And as you can see, there's the guests using the space amply to view the dogs. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is something that I'm incredibly proud of, and that is this little viewing area up here. So if you can remember, we built this with the amphibian house, and people are now starting to come up here to look at the wild dogs. So we put up a wild dog information board here, put a couple of benches in, and a donation bin, and we're going to start doing more decorating here as more animals start to be able to see from up here. I think more and more people will start coming up here. But yeah, wonderful view from over here of the habitat. I mean, you really do get to really look down, and I can imagine coming up here as well and just spending time watching the pack play. Ooh, there's one member of the pack making his way over the top of the rock tunnel cave bridge. Yes, so that is the wild dog habitat. As always, I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I had a fantastic time building this. Great inspiration from out there in the community. I wouldn't have had the idea to do this if not. So please do leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And if you have any suggestions for future animals, future additions to the park, other ideas, please let me know. I'm always keen to hear what you'd like to see in Tankwa Conservation Park. Until next Sunday, when we shall continue with I don't know what yet, please stay safe. I am the Beard, signing out.